بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين وهو خير ناصر ومعين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Spiritual Perspectives. Salams to all our viewers and welcome once again to the program that tend to look at the spiritual perspectives of different phenomena and realities. As we spoke last week in regards to the 12th Imam, the responsibilities of ours and the different dimensions of our 12th Imam in regards to how he is the manifestation or how he is the phenomena of hope himself. And also we talked about the other metaphysical principle, which was the principle of uniformity and universality, which is manifested through the Imam. Very briefly I will mention these phenomena and then we'll look into another of the reality of this month of Shaban, which we are supposed to be reciting every day, which is the Salawat of Shabaniya. What is the significance of the salawat itself? Why are we asked to recite salawat, and specifically this special salawat which we recite in the month of Shaban? Last week we mentioned two things which were quite unique. We kind of look into the two metaphysical principles, which usually metaphysical realities and principles is well accepted by anybody, regardless of they follow a deen or they do not follow a deen. For example, the principle of good. Everybody, every human beings like goodness or like things that are good, and every human being rejects or does not like evil. For example, speaking the truth is good, regardless of a person being religious or non-religious, he will accept that. Speaking lie, oppression is bad. Oppression, zulm is bad, everybody accepts it. So these are the metaphysical realities that is well accepted by everyone, regardless of a person being dini or non-dini. Two principles we talked about. One was the principle of hope. The value of everything is because of the hope, and therefore when it comes to a thing or zaman or makan or an individual or personality, the greater amount of hope that it gives, the greater the value of that person would be. So therefore now the 12th Imam provides hope to all of humanity. Now sometimes there is hope for a particular thing, sometimes the hope is for meticulous many things. Now if a person have a hope in the water of Zamzam, for example, he will have the hope for getting shifa. There's only one hope that he has in it, that he be cured. He will not have a hope that if he drinks the Zamzam water he will become ghani, rich. He will not have hope that if he drinks the Zamzam water he will become a scholar. His hope in the water of Zamzam by drinking it is shifa. Now in the same fashion, for example, other things such as the Makan of Arafah, he will have the hope that his sins will be forgiven if he does astaghfar in the Makan of Arafah, but he will not be expecting that if he stays in Arafah, as soon as he leaves, he becomes rich. Now, the greater the amount of hope, the greater the value of that thing becomes as well. First of all, hope itself is valuable. Then what type of hope it provides? Is it for one thing? Is it for two things? Is it for many things? Wujud Mubarak Imam Zaman, the existence of the 12th Imam, provides hope for what? Provides hope for cure, provides hope for poor people, provides to make so that they become rich, provides hope for getting rid of ignorance, jahalat, provides hope for those who are oppressed, provides hope for justice, provides hope for completion of deen to be established, provides hope for the Shariat to be Nafis, provides hope for the avenge of the blood of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, provides hope for Siddiqa Kubra, her right to be taken away, provides hope for those who are suffering, in this world, and their relief, and all sort of relief, any sort of suffering that they have, that will be relief. So it is a multi-facet ball or energy, or what you want to call reality of hope, that is given by the 12th Imam. So that becomes more valuable. That's one principle we talked about. The second was the uniformity and the universality. Everything that is uniform and universal is greater of value. For example, nature is uniform and it is universal. If you are in middle of Canada or Vancouver, wherever you are, or you are in Scotland, nature is nature. The other thing I want to add here is that everything that is closer to God is pure. Everything that is closer to God tend to have the qualities of God. An insan kamil, a perfect man, he is Khalifatullah, he is the closest to God. Then he reflects, or he tend to have those qualities of God in him. Now, when we are talking about the qualities of God, these qualities of God doesn't mean that it has to be a human being to be the Khalifatullah, to be the representative of God. Yes, in the perfect sense, he is the Khalifatullah, he is the vicegerent of God, he is the representative of God. But anything that is closer to God will have the qualities of God. For example, if one look at nature is pure. It's sidq, it's truthful, it's reflecting those divine, beautiful qualities of God because it's closer to God. Now, based upon the Islamic sciences, which we discussed earlier, the Islamic art tend to have that reality. The Islamic art tend to represent the qualities of God, then it becomes sacred. For example, the Makan of Arafah have the quality of forgiveness, that a person should be present in the Makan of Arafah so that he be forgiven. So it is that Makan, as that Makan is closer to God, it will have the it will have the quality of being Ghafoor, being Rahim. So that Makan have that quality itself. The Turbat, the clay of Karbala, which is, they say there's Shifat in it. So therefore, that Makan, which is giving that cure, that Turbat, which is giving that cure, is closer to God, and it will have the quality of God of giving cure, because Allah is Shafi. So the same way, whether that be Zaman, whether that be Makan, whether that be an individual, if he is closer to God, he will have the qualities of God. And insan to the most capacity, to the maximum extent. Obviously, he's the vicegerent, he's insan kamil in that sense. Now that uniformity we were talking about, that's the second principle. The uniformity and universality. Everything that is uniform, which tend to reflect oneness, that's Tawheed, have value. For example, Hajis, they all wear ihram. Ihram is valuable. The akhlaq of ihram is valuable. It is reflecting oneness, it is reflecting unity, which is the quality of God, which is Wahid, which is Ahad, which is one. Shariat, the same way. It is valuable because it's closer to God, so that law becomes sacred, right? So an individual who tend to reflect that universality and uniformity is closer to God, as the things which are reflecting the universality and uniformity is closer to God and have the qualities of God and is valuable. The same way an insan. So Hussein is for everyone. Hindus, Husseini Brahman, Christians visit Imam Hussein, Non-believers visit Hussein. Lovers of Ahl Bayt visit Hussein. Right? Whether they be Shia or Sunni, everyone is, as they say, they will call, we are, Hussein is ours. That is uniformity. That is universality. Imam Zaman, the same way, as even the Hindus, they believe that the one who would come on the white horse from the black temple, who is the savior, and we are waiting for him. The Christians wait for him, the last savior. The Jews wait for him. The Muslims wait for him. That universality, that uniformity that he will provide, and that he is himself. Principle and misdaq, the referent. The Imam is the one. So these are the things that we discussed last week. Let's move further. As we said, we're going to talk about Salawat-e-Shabaniya. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam mentions that in the month of Shaban, at the time of Zawal, which means that after the sun reaches its zenith, after the sun reaches the middle of the sky and it starts to set, that is called Zawal, after Zuhur basically. One must recite this salawat every day. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, shajaratun nabuwa wa mawdi'in risala wa mawdi'in risala wa mukhtalif al-malaika wa ahli bayti wahi. That salawat that is we recite is a long salawat. Now, it begins with a salawat. It begins with Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. What is the hikmat behind reciting salawat? Why is it so much emphasis among the school of Ahl Bayt about salawat? Nevertheless, in the school of Ahl Tasannun, they all have salawat, but we tend to see a great deal of emphasis among the Shias. Salawat is a reality that is reflecting the mechanics or the sunnah of God, how it functions. Whatever you ask from Allah, from Lord, there is only one exit which tends to provide the manaviyat, which tends to provide the maddiyat. So when I am asking Allah and something needs to come from Allah, there is only one exit. Now, one might say that, how can that be possible? As there is one God, there is one exit. And this is once again philosophically proven as well. There is Aql Awwal, and then there are Ashra or 10 Uqul Ibn Sina in Falsafa talks about. This Aql Awwal is first. So, in a mystical fashion or an irfani fashion, it will be Awwalu ma khalaqallahi nuri. First thing God created is the Muhammadan light. So there is Allah, and the first thing God created is the Muhammadan light. So, as we say, the exit of everything that descends from the Lord is one. And that exit is known as wilayat. That exit is known as that guardianship. That exit is known as that Noor-e Muhammadi. So when I am asking something to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is through the channel of wilayat. It is through channel of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And this is a qanoon. I mean, one might say that why is it? Well, if you are saying why is it, then ask as well, will the sun will rise and there will be no day? It is not possible. When the sun rises, there will be day. If the sun doesn't rise, it will still be night. So the same way, if something needs to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is through wilayat. Otherwise, it is not going to come. And at the same time, whatever needs to go towards Allah, our du'as needs to ascend, it is through wilayat. It is through Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. That's how Allah have organized. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made it in such a fashion. One God, one wilayat. One God, one exit. One God, one entry. So now, the recitation of salawat is for that very reason that God wants us to realize this wilayat. The month of Rajab, the month of Shaban, and the month of Ramadan. The month of Rajab, we have many du'as which we were supposed to recite every day, which tend to point out to the importance of Ahl Bayt. For example, the dua that comes from the 12th Imam given to one of the Naib Khas of the 12th Imam in the month of Rajab, which begins with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If one looks at the meaning of this dua and try to understand what this dua is all about, it's all about Tawheed. However, this understanding of Tawheed is through whom? It is through Ahl Bayt, where Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam is known as wa arkan Tawheedik. O Ahl Bayt, you are the rukun, you are the arkan, the essential elements of Tawheed. Tawheed will not be understood unless or until the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam is there. Tawheed will be understood through Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. If one wants to understand true Tawheed, if one wants to have that true vision, true witnessing, true mukashafa, true seeing, true meeting, Ya ayyuhan nas innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan fa mulaqi, for that mulaqat to be take place, and that mulaqat to be a true mulaqat, a true meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This true meeting is only possible through Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, is possible through wilayat. If there is no wilayat, if there is no Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, that Tawheedi vision, that Tawheedi understanding will be limited. Yes, it will be Tawheed, but it will not be perfect. It will be Tawheed in the sense that a child also say there is only one God. A scientist will also say that mathematically it is impossible that there be more than one God. But at the same time, you have Imam Sajjad alayhi salam saying that, "Oh Allah, you showed to me, I understood you. I do not need any dalil or any proof in order that I come to you." And at the same time, this is that very dua which we recite, Allahumma arifni nafsak. Oh Allah, make me have the marifat of your nafs directly. Then in other duas we find that, "Oh Allah, I come to you through the signs." Right? So therefore, understanding Tawheed, the understanding of Tawheed through the principles of in falsafa, there are two principles. There's a burhan in and there is burhan lim. The burhan in is where people tend to come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the creation. Yes, there is God. Step by step they reach to God. But there's another burhan which is directly knowing God through God. Sometimes a person knows God through the asar. Sometimes the person knows God through God. So there's two types of ma'rifat and two types of understanding Tawheed. One is knowing God through God Himself, where God directly shows Him. And there is knowing God through the asar, through the effects, where a person step by step reaches God. Now obviously God is a mystery. God is astonishing. God is amazing. God is fascinating. So when we are saying knowing God through God directly, means that if I only see God once, I know God, it is over. That's not the case. God only reflected once to Musa upon that Jabal Nur, upon that mountain. What happened? Did the beauty of God, did the marifat of God finished after that? No, it did not. So sometimes a person knows God directly, where Allah shows Himself, or sometimes a person knows God through the asar. Who taught us this? It is Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. It is through wilayat. So what I'm saying is that Tawheed is possible. A child might say that there is one God. but at the same time the complexities of this tawheed, the subtleness of this tawheed, the latafat, the beauty of this tawheed can only be understood through wilayat, through Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, and no other place, and no other individual. Ayatollah Hasan Zadeh Amali, a great mystique, Hafazahullah, may Allah protect him and prolong his life and increase his darajat. He writes in one of his books, or it was either in one of his lessons where I heard, where he says that there was a great Sufi master who was known as Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi is known as Shaykhul Akbar, very famous, the one who compiled, Irfan, the founding father, if you want to call, in other words, of mysticism, is known as Ibn Arabi. He's known as Shaykhul Akbar among the Urafa, Now, there are different aqwal, or there are different sort of, sayings in regards to him, whether he was a Shia in a Taqiyya, or whether he was a Sufi, a Sunni Sufi, or whatever. Regardless, what I'm trying to say here is that Agha Hasan Zadeh says that Ibn Arabi, in terms of his kamalat, in terms of his mukashafat, which means spiritual witnessing, he has seen the darajat of Tawheed. A great Sufi master, well known, well respected. His books are taught in the Hawza in Irfan. However, with a critique by our scholars, by our ulama. Now, he had marvelous visions and witnessings, mukashafat. However, there's some limitation. There's some puzzle pieces which are missing. And these puzzles pieces are missing because he wasn't introduced to the du'as of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. He wasn't introduced to Saif Sajjadiyah. He wasn't introduced to Munajat Shabaniyah. He wasn't introduced to, Dua Abu Hamza Thumali. Now, these du'as tend to provide us with that vision. Imam is seeing Tawheed and dictating Tawheed, and they are writing in a form of a dua. So dua is nothing but the marifat of Tawheed. Dua is nothing but those mukashafat which the Imam sees and dictates and writes. That is Tawheed. So now going back onto the salawat. Salawat is the reason to be reciting salawat is to understand Tawheed, that Tawheed is from Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. When a person is reciting Tawheed, when a person is reciting salawat, it means he believes in the Tawheed Muhammadi, the Tawheed which was given to the Prophet Muhammad, to the last Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Tawheed. So when I am saying Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, I am actually reciting, sending blessings and salutations on Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, and this is nothing but Tawheed itself. This is nothing but manifestation of that, that tawajjuh, that focus, tawajjuh Tawheedi. There's a tawajjuh, there's a focusing of Tawheed, That's one reason of reciting salawat, and that's why we see that, right? The second reason of reciting salawat is paying allegiance, paying allegiance to Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. It is from them. It is just like how we pay allegiance, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. It's like saying there is no God but God. So when I am saying salawat, I am paying allegiance to the wilayat, that true Tawheed which was delivered by Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. That's why I'm reciting that salawat. Now, let's go into the discussion of this dua or salawat, if you want to say. It begins with Shajaratin Nabuwa. Shajaratin Nabuwa, which means a tree of Nabuwat. Now, see, many of the divine realities are very difficult to comprehend. Those are spiritual realities. And for us to really understand, for our mind to have the understanding of those realities requires some sort of, a tangible element. There should be something tangible by which we could relate to. When Quran is talking about, Jannatun tajri min tahti al-anharu, or white stream of milk flowing and mountains and beautiful gardens and so on and so forth, it is for us to really understand what sort of reality is that. Latafat, it's that subtleness, that latif. Well, being latif, having that sort of subtleness, that could happen when you are speaking to a small child. It's very latif. When you are in a company of students who are comprehending, who are understanding what you are teaching, they are taking what you are giving as latafat. That is Jannat. Allama Tabatabai rahmatullah alayhi, after the shahadat of Shaheed Mutahari, may Allah bless his soul and increase his daraja and mahshur them with Shuhada Karbala, he has an interview. Maybe you could check it out on YouTube as well, perhaps. He was a student of Allama Shaheed Mutahari in Irfan and Falsafa, right? And ye ibarati, as they say, there's an ibarat, there's a jumla, or there's a sentence or a statement from Allama. He says that when Marhum Mutahari used to be in the lesson, when Tabatabai was given lessons, when he was teaching, if Marhum Mutahari was there, من یه حالتی داشتم، یعنی ایشون در فارسی میگه، گفت منم فارسی میگم و ترجمه میکنم، وقتی که مرحوم مطهری تو درس ما شرکت میکردن، من یه حالتی داشتم، میگه که ببخشید عبارتش یه کمی خجالت میکشم اینجوریست، و گفت که دیگه حالت رقص به من پیش میآمد. Yani, when he was in my lesson, I'm sorry I have to use this term, he's apologizing for using this kind of term, but I used to feel like dancing, when he was in the class, feel like dancing, halat raqs, just like how these, in Sama, these in Turkey you might have seen, this dancing in this Rumi, people, they dance, go whirling dervishes, they call it. However, this was not really the methodology of Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. It was his son, and later on, it was developed and it reached to a more of a commercial, value to a certain extent. Regardless, so he says that he has this halat, this state of dancing. There's a state of joy. The state of joy could be expressed in this fashion. That state of joy is expressed, for example, when you are teaching, when you are having these, young children, you're teaching them, you're speaking to them, they are learning from you, or when you are, how Quran describes Jannatun tajri min tahti al-anharu and all that. So this has a kayfiyat, it's like that kayf, it's that halat, it's that state. So as insan is limited, as his mind is limited, one really have to express in this fashion. Shajaratun nabuwa, shajara, it's like a tree, a tree, has been mentioned in regards to, Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, shajaratin nabuwa, it's like a tree, like a darakht nabuwat, a tree that is strong, a tree that bears fruit, a tree that gives, a tree of nabuwat, nabuwat, nabbah, someone who, that's Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, right? Then after that, it talks about shajarat al-nabuwa wa mawdi' al-risala, as it says that they are the mawda, that they are the sort of like wa mawdi' al-risala wa mukhtalif al-malaika, the place of risalat, of that messengership. They are the messenger. the place of messengership sits in the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. See, there is Nabi and there is Rasul. So first it begins with Shajaratin Nabuwa, and then after that is the question of Risalat. Now, our Prophet was Nabi and Rasul. There's a difference between Nabi and Rasul. So our Prophet was Nabi and Rasul. Rasul has a responsibility of delivering the message as well. Nabi is someone who is very pious, someone wahi comes to him, someone who is divinely guided. He himself as an individual is pious, is ma'soom. Then Risalat is of a higher task where he delivers that message. Now, Shajaratin Nabuwa wa Mawdi' Risala. Now, Risala is transferred into Imamat, which is also delivering that. The Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. ومختلف الملائكة ومختلف الملائكة مختلف الملائكة مختلف, which comes from khalf. Now this is we are in a position of khilaf, so to speak. In Urdu they say khilaf, mukhalif, which means opposite, right? Mukhalif is opposite. So now this camera is opposite to me, or you are sitting in front of the TV, you're opposite to me. This is a mukhalif. So this mukhtaliful malaika means, malaika are coming and going. This ikhtilaf, of coming. They say ikhtilaful ummati rahma, right? This ikhtilaf of ummat is mercy. Many tend to say ikhtilaf means differences among the ummat is mercy. Well, this mukhtalif, this ikhtilaf is going and coming. That's what ikhtilaf means. That you go and come to each other houses. The ummah goes and come. Goes and come. Ikhtilaf, mukhtalif in terms of that. So, wa mukhtaliful malaika, which means that the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam wa mawdi' risala. Now, if you want to add mukhtaliful malaika with the mawdi' risala, the place of risalat, becomes that the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam are not just the tree of nabuwat, they are not just the place of risalat, of messengership, but at the same time malaika comes and goes. They are that place where malaika descend and ascend from them. Why not be this case? As we recite Tanazzalul malaikatu warruh, when these malaika are descending, where are they descending? On the night of Qadr, they are descending upon the heart of the 12th Imam. When we recite in Ziyarat Jami Kabira, Assalamu alaykum ya Ahl Baytun Nabuwa wa Mawdi' Risala wa Mukhtalifil Malaika, in the Ziyarat Jamia, we recite that Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, their graves are the place where malaika coming and going. Many traditions in regards to the presence of the angels in the haram of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, in other Imams' haram as well is there, right? When the angels, when they come from the heaven down to the dome of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, the angels who are there will inquire about the angels who are up in the heaven, how they are doing in regards to, what is happening in the heaven, because that is the only time that they would speak. They are doing two things. They are doing they are praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are crying for Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And the first thing they utter is when those angels come from the heaven, they would ask them, how are those angels up there? That is the time that they would speak. And that is the thing that they would speak only. So, wa mukhtaliful malaika actually means that angels are continuously, perpetually descending and ascending upon Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. And it's al-malaika. It is not just, it is with an alif and lam, which means all malaika. They ascend and descend. Imam Baqir alayhi salam was doing tawaf, and Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam was still young. And a person comes while Imam was doing tawaf and ask the fifth Imam a question, and Imam Baqir alayhi salam says that, let me finish the tawaf and I will see you behind Maqam Ibrahim. Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam was also with the fifth Imam. After they finished the tawaf, both of them, they sat behind Maqam Ibrahim, and Imam Baqir alayhi salam finished his prayer. This young lad who was there while doing the tawaf came back to the fifth Imam. This is reported by the sixth Imam. So here the sixth Imam witnesses this young lad who asked a question while his father was doing tawaf. He returns back as his father had ordered him. When he comes back, there he asks the fifth Imam a question. And my father answered this question, the sixth Imam is saying. And then he left after that. The question was asked and he answered the question and he leaves. Then the father tells me, do you know Jafar, or do you know who this was, my son? The Imam says that no, this was Jibrail who came to ask me a question. So Malaika are the continuously did ascend and descend upon Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. Malaika are in need of wilayat, are in need of Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. The angels, are in need of it. If you may recall, on the 3rd of Shaban, we talked about the dua of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and how Fatrus, the angel, when he wipes his wings with the cradle of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he was given shifaat and he was able to fly, as he was ill, right? So therefore the malaika, the angels, they are giving shafaat and they increase their knowledge through this wilayah, through Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. Now after the mukhtaliful malaika, or ma'adin al-ilm, what a nice connection. We're talking about ilm and how this Jibrail came and asked the Imam. They are the ma'adin, they are the treasure of ilm. They are the treasure of ilm. They themselves are that, treasure of ilm. They themselves is a treasure, is something that is perpetual, that is something is never ending. Ma'adin. See, there's a treasure which finishes, but ma'adin is something that is perpetual. It never finishes. It's called the ma'adin of gold. It's always making it never finishes. Ma'adin of water, for example, it just keeps on going. No one can really stop that. That's what ma'adin means. So the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam is known as that ma'adin of ilm, of knowledge. Every knowledge, if you want to call that secular knowledge of chemistry and mathematics and physics or whatever, or if you want to call the spiritual knowledge of tawheed and ilahiyat, that is through Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. There is only one exit, there is only one entry, Ana Madinatul Ilm wa Aliyun Babuha. There is only one Bab. There is only one door for all knowledge to manifest, for a person to really grasp and understand, and it is through Ma'adinul Ilm, is through the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. Now Ma'adinul Ilm, some of the scholars have given the example that wherever the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam is there will be no jahalat. Ignorance will wipe out, ignorance will disappear. If there is Ahl Bayt, ignorance will disappear. And that's what Imam Ali alayhi salam have mentioned, that man is the enemy of ignorance. If man knows, if man have knowledge, then they will understand who Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam is, what Islam is, what Quran is, if they have that knowledge and understanding. As they do not have that knowledge, as they are jahil, they are enemies of that. Those who are jahil of the wilayat, they are enemies of wilayat. Those who are jahil, ignorant of Quran, they are enemies of Quran. Those who are ignorant of Islam, they are enemies of Islam. They don't know what Islam is. This is one way, and the other way is those who are ignorant of Islam, they themselves are enemies of Islam. They call themselves as Muslim, but as they do not have knowledge of Islam, they themselves, even while being a Muslim, are enemies of Islam. Khawarij call themselves as Muslims, but they were actually enemies of Islam. In the present situation, in the present example, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all of these terrorist groups, they call themselves as Muslims, but in reality, they themselves are enemies of Islam, because they haven't really understood, they don't really have the knowledge of Islam. As they do not have the knowledge of Islam, they might be a Muslim, but they are enemies of Islam. Those who have the knowledge of Islam, they will not be the enemies of Islam, but they will be lovers. So therefore, a man, as Imam Ali alayhi salam says, is the enemy of what he did not know. As he do not know, as he is ignorant of something, he will be enemy of. He will be afraid of that thing. If he has the knowledge, then he will not be afraid. As simple example, you and I will be very scared to go inside a room which is dark, because we are ignorant of what is in that room. We might trip, we might fall, or something is there that we cannot see. But if we have the knowledge of what is inside the room, when we turn that light on, then we will not be afraid of going inside. We will not be taking that as an enemy as such, that we will go inside with a sword or something. If something will come, we'll attack it or something like that, right? So therefore, وَمَعَدِنُ الْعِلْمِ Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam are considered to be that ma'adin, that treasure of knowledge. وَأَهْلِ بَيْتِ وَحْيِ They are the khandan, they are the family of wahi. Wahi descends to them. Every act that they perform, they are the misdaq of that. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ The Prophet is. Prophet doesn't speak. The Quran clearly says that. Prophet doesn't speak. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ Except that wahi comes to the Prophet. Right? It's like saying, for example, there is a vessel in which there is ice. Sometimes the vessel itself is of ice. Now you have a vessel of ice, and inside that vessel of ice, there is ice as well. So when we are saying they are the Ahl Bayt Wahi, it means that sarasar, everything of theirs is nothing but wahi itself. That's why they are known as Quran Natiq. There's Quran Samit and there's Quran Natiq. Quran is wahi, a wahi that is seen in the form of a book. Quran Natiq is the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. So they are the Ahl Bayt Wahi. Now, Al-Fulk al-Jariyah. Fulk al-Jariyah means like a boat, like a ship, which is moving. Once again, as we said in the very beginning, for us to really comprehend and understand, Quran uses similes, Quran uses examples. The same way the du'as are also doing the same thing. As it says that Al-Fulk al-Jariyah, which really means that they are like a big ark that is moving. An ark that is, something that is protected, fil lujaj al-ghamira, in sort of like an ocean, infinite and quite dreadful. But they are the ark. When that ark is sailing upon that ocean, in which there are waves, in which there are, floods and whatnot, dangers, but the ark flows. So that is why, as the Prophet have said, that the Ahl Bayt are safinatun najah. They are that safina, they are that ark. In regards to Imam Hussein, we read, Innal Hussein Misbahul Huda. He is the torch of guidance. Was Safinatun Najah. And he is the Safina of Nijat. He is the Safina, he is the ark of salvation. Then you have the 12th Imam. In the Friday we recite in his ziyarat, Ainul Haya wa Safinatun Najah. You are the essence of life. Essence of life is through the 12th Imam. right? And you are the Safina al-Najah, that you are the Safina, you are the sort of like the ark of salvation. It is through you, O 12th Imam. So here, al-fulk al-jariyah fil lujaj al-ghamirah, in sort of like an ocean of tremendous ocean with many dangers that is out there, right? And then al-mutaghaddimu lahum mariq. Now those who go further to them, al-mutaghaddim, which means that those who precede them, those who try to, as I say, ash as kase ash as ash dakhtar. They say that the kase, which means that the container, of what's inside ash, meaning, the soup. The container of the soup is much more, it's hot, compared to the soup itself. So those who tend to precede, those who tend to go further than the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, al-mutaghaddimu lahum mariq, they are doomed. They are sort of destroyed. They have gone outside of deen and religion. Somebody is more prophet than the prophet himself. Somebody is more imam than the imam himself. Somebody is trying to be more religious than, the imam is the leader. How can you really be, in front of the imam? But your understanding of things, you're saying, oh, this is religious. But when you look at the imam, for example, no, he's in full harmony. He has that balance. Ummat wasat, as they say, an ummat that is right, amr bainal amrain, right? That balance is there in their life. Not extreme to the left, not extreme to the right. That is something that we are missing today. And that is that, to have that balance in our life. We tend to think that, when a person is religious, that means that he should be faqir. A religious person should not enjoy anything. He should be not counted in any affair. He should not have life. Where do they get this from? It's very unfortunate to see our community that, especially, amongst the scholars we tend to see that, Maulana, right? Maulana means that he should live on hawa. He doesn't need to eat anything. He doesn't need to drink anything. He doesn't need to, attend to his children, to his family, to, his brothers and sisters, or have friends. That's Maulana for them, right? But this is not the case. This is that extreme. That cannot be possible. There has to be that balance there, right? Expectations there should be in the same fashion as well. Expectation. So when we are saying that those who do not go further than the Prophet and the Imams, right? And at the same time, they should not expect someone to be more religious as well. Now we are looking, hey, Imam Baqir alayhi salam, oh, look at his clothing. Imam Jafar as-Sadiq, oh wow, look at his abaya, so expensive he's wearing. People used to criticize the Imam. They used to say he wear very fine clothes. They used to say Imam Sadiq wear fine clothes, right? The Sufis used to call them that, he's living a luxury life, right? That's what they used to criticize the Imam. How can he be, right? For a fifth Imam, it's been mentioned that, the description that is given about the fifth Imam is that he was a bit heavyweight, right? And he himself said that I enjoy good food and I pay attention to what is the source of that food. It's halal or haram, right? Oh, no, how can that be possible? That one is expecting that. Oh, really? How can we make peace? How can we make a truce? Now I'm really doubting, how come, the Imam Hassan alayhi salam have made truce? How come the Prophet have made truce, a peace treaty? That is going further. Expecting as well, not only expecting, but going one step further. In terms of their practices that we have seen in history, where they themselves sort of took that step, like the Khawarij and all that we have seen. So therefore, when we are saying in this munajat Shabaniya, dua Shabaniya, we are pointing out al-mutaghaddimu lahum mariq, those who gone further to the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, they are outside deen. Our banner, our lead, our guide, our imam, our khalifa, the vicegerent, the guardian, the representative, they are the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. Is that wilayat? I think we have reached to the end of the program, and we hope to see you next week again. And if we have the tawfiq to continue on the salawat of Sha'baniyah, we could do that. However, as we will be near the month of Ramadan, perhaps we have to focus on some of the aspects of the month of Ramadan. Thank you very much to all our viewers for joining us, and I request you all to pray for all of Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, for all lovers of Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, inshallah, and particularly those who are the protectors of the haram, protecting the harams for them as well. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all your marhumeen in this month of Sha'ban, free them all from the sins and mahshur them with Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ghafar Allahu lana wa lakum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive you and myself. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.